So I want to ask you this, Tom, and you tell me what if this is a conversation in the league or it's just chatter. And I'll ask this question, in honor of Brockman, who's not here today. What does this mean for the evaluation of Lance by Shanahan and the Niners? Did they miss on him, or what's the general sense on that, Tom?
Well, right now, it obviously looks like a miss because we're talking about him being the third-string quarterback if he's on the roster at all in year 3. But I think you also have to remember that was, the 2021 draft. So you're talking about, coming off of COVID. There were still certain restrictions. He only played one game in his last year, and it wasn't a very good game against a lesser opponent. You were completely betting on what you could develop him into. I mean, this was Kyle Shanahan making a gamble. I mean, there was nothing on the tape. There was no way you were going to be able to answer the questions the teams had about Trey Lance. And there are certain, evaluators and coaches who, if you ask them, they will say they would never draft a quarterback with as little starting experience as Trey Lance had, just because, yes, you may have unlimited upside here, but you also may have, unlimited downside to a certain degree. So there were definitely people who would not have signed off on Trey Lance being drafted in the first round, period. But, for Kyle and knowing, his offense and the way that it's run, he could have drafted Mac Jones, who, Mac Jones, in terms of the way he profiled, was kind of carbon copy of Kirk Cousins, Matt Schaub, Jimmy Garoppolo, in terms of you kind of know what he is. You might be a little bit better athlete than those guys, but, Mac, it would have been you're running the same offense. With Trey, the thought was you could get this additional dynamic because of the athletic ability, the mobility, the things that you could do with him in terms of the movement game and things like that. But again, you never had time really to develop it. So I wouldn't say it was about the evaluation. The 49ers didn't have, outside of the fact they ran that second pro day and kind of helped talk themselves into taking Trey Lance, they didn't really have a lot of information that everybody else didn't have. Nobody had sufficient information, but that's what scouting's about. It's about projecting, and what they projected Trey Lance to be. Maybe he still can become that. He is still a young guy. He just hasn't been on the field. And again, it really, to me, comes back to, last year the 49ers were in a different spot. Okay, we're turning over the reins to him. He's going to play through this. He's going to get 17 starts. We're going to get into the playoffs. He's going to grow over the course of the season. Now you've got a guy in Brock Purdy who can play, and you think you can go win a Super Bowl. You just don't have time to start devoting a bunch of reps to a guy who, if things go well, is never going to see the field.
That makes sense, Tom. And I know you earlier said something along the lines of, they don't want to give the reps to somebody who needs it in a situation like this one, where Purdy's ready to roll and Sam Darnold has 55 games of experience and appears ready to roll, and they just don't have time for school, right? Last year, though, right. Do you think they did? Do you think they would have gone into the season? They were going to go ahead and ride or die and go through the growing pains with Lance that just got unfortunately ended in week 2 by him getting carted off? Tom?
That was absolutely the plan. He needs to play football. There may not have been a number 3 overall pick ever who has played as little football as Trey Lance had. But, and remember, they were trying to trade Jimmy Garoppolo last offseason. He had surgery. He wasn't healthy. And the market never really materialized. He wasn't even supposed to be on the roster. And Brock Purdy was one of those guys who Kyle, every year, he identifies 1 or 2 quarterbacks that, whether it's a draft pick or an undrafted guy who he thinks has a shot in his offense. They liked Purdy. They got him at the final pick in the 7th round. And, lo and behold, he got his opportunity, and he absolutely seized it. It's different now. And I don't want to put words in Kyle Shanahan's mouth, but I think that, truthfully, if, let's say, you have a similar situation to last year and Brock Purdy gets hurt and Sam Darnold gets hurt, Brandon Allen might be on the field before Trey Lance would at this point if you were playing like a must-win type of game. If you had the rest of the season, this all happens in week 1, maybe, now you're back into let's let Trey develop here. But you had one game to go win. You're going to go with the guy who you know and you trust to run the offense and to throw the football accurately, because if there's one thing Kyle does, as well as anybody in the NFL, it's get people open. He wants the quarterback to be automatic. He wants the ball to come out because the guy's going to be open against a certain coverage. And if you're not doing that, or if you're not delivering the ball accurately, consistently, it's hard really to ride with you. They're just not in that position right now to let Trey Lance go through all those bumps.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.